Nancy's still chasing her postman, but the Republicans claim they have a skinny package, yet opponents say, show it and put it on the table. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is LALATE. Hope you're good and safe. This is Afternoons LALATE that starts every day at 3:30. Starts with a check, then goes to hazard pay, then FPUC, then finally rent assistance. This is our 2-hour programming block every day that starts with a check. And boy, it's going to be a jam-packed day. Hazard pay is going to go over that incredible Uber and Lyft move this Friday out of the state of California. That's coming up next after this broadcast. Then FPUC, I'll be detailing you the latest developments on which states are now paying that LWA $300 a week. Big changes minutes ago, and new developments on rent assistance. Chat that after this video as well. Let me get right to the check. Really shocking and great news, and a little bit of what the hell news today as well. The great news is that there's agreement upon the check. There's more movements to get you the check. And while there's been a lot of very bad, confusing gossip out there, which is the what the hell news, the great news is that Mark Meadows, Nancy Pelosi, and the powers that be have all said you're going to get a stimulus check, and they've said it in the last few hours. Let me get right to these incredible, great details. Mark Meadows says you're going to get a check, and he says he's ready to move along and get that check out, and he thinks that it can be done right away. He's now calling upon Nancy Pelosi to get it done as well. Nancy Pelosi last Friday said she was in favor of getting something done on a more expedited basis, but she's been chasing her postman. More about that in a second. But then there's that confusing news about what's going on with the allegations that Republicans don't want to give you a check. I'll be getting to that shortly. First, there's agreement upon the check, $1,200 as a second stimulus check, to land in Americans' bank accounts within about 10 days after the agreement is reached. $1,200 to individuals, $2,400 to married couples. Agreement upon that. There's also an agreement that dependents, whether adult or minor, will get a check. Great news about that as well. The we don't know news is the amount of the dependents. There's a disagreement that appears to not be a deal breaker as to the amount of check for the dependents. The Republicans want to pay $500, the Democrats want to pay $1,200, but that doesn't seem to be what's holding up the delivery of the check. More about that in a second. There's unclear issues about child support. The Republicans propose to take out for child support, take out, and the Democrats propose not to take out for child support under a second stimulus check. Finally, the president caused a little bit of mathematical confusion, more than even Larry Kudlow can deal. I think it gave Larry a migraine when it happened. The president said he was in support of a $3,400 family of 4 stimulus check, which we had never seen before. He said that in a series of tweets last Friday where he has ordered Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin to send out the checks forthwith, but said he wanted to pay $3,400 for a family of 4, where the Democrats want to pay a family of 6, $6,000. A family of 5 is $6,000. How do you do this math, and how does it calculate out? It's only calculated one way. There's no other way it comes out. Nancy and the Democrats, $1,200 each individual in the household times 5 people in the household max. $6,000. 6-person household, sorry, only 5 get a check. Then for the Trump tweet, well, $3,400, where do we get that? That means $2,400 for the married couple, and then $500 for the dependents. If you're a single mom and you have 3 kids, no problem, $1,200, and then $500. Very, very simple. But that's the great news. The confusing news is, why hasn't the check gone out? And yet, minutes ago, I have for you the what the hell news. The what the hell news, if you follow this channel and you subscribe, which I hope you do, go to the first channel, hit that subscribe and alert button. We're about to pass 200,000 followers today in just 111 days. Can you imagine? I sent out a message to the followers of this channel earlier today that in the last 4 hours, LALATE has counted at least a half a dozen local and national news reports that incorrectly use the verb tense in their title as to a Republican skinny bill, claiming it now exists It doesn't exist. More about that in a second. The articles fully admit there currently is no Republican skinny bill. No one has ever seen it. No one has confirmed its details on the record. And the only sources of the reports are two GOP aides on condition of anonymity because they're not authorized to discuss the legislation publicly. So are these like Mitch's staffers that get him coffee, just run out and just sort of gossip about stuff that he's not doing? This is so important, and I really, 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 really have to make this clear to you. So please, please pay careful attention with me. There were a series of very bad written articles published by local news, local national news channel affiliates. These are not small operational channels that said in the title of the articles or said in the broadcast, the Republicans have introduced a skinny bill that will not pay you a stimulus check. The verb tense was past tense, like it had happened. Like, oh my God, this has happened. We're not getting a stimulus check. It literally caused pandemonium. Now, I reported this morning. I think I reported last night. The problem is it's actually still happening. It's happening rampant. And when you read the article, it says proposed legislation, pending, considering, floating, thinking about it. Well, don't say it's happened, folks. Let me explain to you where we are. And let me explain why this has happened before, and it really pisses me off. As someone who tries to give you correct information, it's very disconcerting that when I try to look up the information, I see all this mess. Let me tell you where we are. There's currently two mega bills, the HEALS Act and the HEROES Act. The HEALS Act is the Republican, the HEROES Act is the Democrats. There's a series of small non-mega bills. There's the Romney plan, there's the Kamala Harris plan that gives you a $2,000 check every month for 6 months. We could talk about that bill as much as we want to. I mean, it's still there, but it's not driving the truck. The two things driving the truck are the HEALS Act and the HEROES Act. All right, so back before the HEALS Act was debuted, there was all this conjecture of what was going to happen. That's happening today as well. There's no Republican skinny bill that has been introduced. There's been no Republican skinny bill that has even been addressed publicly on the record by a member of the Republican Party. We have not even seen a deal memo. We haven't seen a letter. We have not even seen a statement on the record as to what might be in there. And so for people to continually, these darn aides, and you know whose aides these are. I don't need to tell you who these are. So yeah, they have Kentucky Fried Chicken for lunch. You know whose aides these are. They continually want to float stuff out to press to make people go back crazy and get very nervous about their stimulus check. How dare they? How dare they? Stop talking out of your butt and write the damn bill and introduce it, and stop gossiping about stuff that's not happening. You did it before. You did it before the HEALS Act, and everyone was irate. Before the HEALS Act, I had to deal with all this nonsense of what Republicans were going to do, thinking about doing, were doing, and every news outlet that they have in their pockets was running stories that it had happened, and I had to deal with viewers really panicking and nervous, and it makes me so angry that viewers thought that was a law, thought that it was a bill, thought that it had been voted upon, thought their livelihood was about to crash and burn because you wanted to gossip about something that hadn't happened. How dare you? Stop it. All right, so this is supposed to be the happy fun news. It's just okay. I got my point across. So if you hear that somewhere, just throw it aside. I will tell you when and where a skinny bill is introduced. But along the lines of, chatter of things that aren't happening yet, let me tell you some more promising news. But this is for people who are on the record, not people talking behind a dumpster, while they're having chicken on a lunch break because the Louisville guy wants to, go play backgammon with his rich big businesses he's giving bailouts to. All right, Mark Meadows on the record. Thank you for going on the record, Mark Meadows. He told reporters minutes ago, I think that the outlook for a skinny deal is better than it's ever been, and yet we are still not there. At least he's honest. At least he's honest. There's no bill, but he thinks there's absolutely great promise for it. That's what I hope for these people to do. Say what the situation is. Just don't talk about clouds and fairylands. If Speaker Nancy Pelosi moves forward on a single bill of postal, let's add in the things we can agree upon. I love his remark, Mark Meadows. Thank you. You know why I love that? Is it's consistent. He actually said this on Sunday as well. So we got 2 for 2 for Mark. Thank you, Mark. On Sunday he said, let's do a standalone second stimulus check bill. He said that to Jake Tapper. He said, I will support a second stimulus check standalone bill, and I'll put in the post office money for it for Nancy. Let's get this done, and let's get the checks go out this week. Now, this is what's wonderful about this is he's now confirming it again. Now, understand this is not a bill. This is a proposal. This is an offer, but this is good because this is a guy who actually has the authority to make the offers to negotiate. It's Nancy, Steve, Mark, and Chuck. Now, Nancy on Friday said she would consider a standalone bill. Today, the Democrats said, I think there needs to be a standalone bill. Now, fully understand, the Democrats don't have a standalone bill either. The Democrats don't have a skinny bill either. There is talk about doing a skinny bill. Now, a lot of people have asked me, have you heard what Tim Kaine has said? Tim Kaine. I'm like, who's Tim Kaine? Oh, yeah, that's Tim Kaine. What has Tim Kaine said? Again, this is wishful talking. I can report it, but it's just Tim Kaine's opinion. I mean, I appreciate you, Tim, but until it happens, I can care less what you say. But let me tell you what he said. Democrat Tim Kaine says he doesn't expect serious negotiations from the Republicans until they're done with their presidential convention next week. Okay, so negative nanny there. I appreciate that. Once we get out of the Republican convention, the week before Labor Day, you're going to see serious negotiations restart, and that means we could do something possibly right after Labor Day when we return. Who are you to say? I mean, you're not in the negotiation room. It's just everyone has an opinion about something. Thank you, Tim. Go stand in the corner. I don't care what you say. Now, I did care about this one thing, which is hideously gossipy, but I got to tell you, I love it. I love it, and I think it sounds likely. He claims that the Republicans are preparing for Donald Trump to issue executive orders on stimulus during the Republican convention next week. An executive order for a stimulus check, an executive order for FPUC that's done better, an executive order. He claims that this is what's going to happen. Now, again, this is Tim Kaine. This is not Mark Meadows. This is not a Republican telling you what a Republican's doing. It's a Democrat telling you what a Republican's doing, but I love it. It's very assuring. What I don't like is this. Nancy and her postman. Nancy and her postman, it just never ends. Chuck Schumer was shown all day long holding up a picture of the USPS like he wants a photo op, like he wants his face on a stamp. Would you lick a Chuck Schumer stamp? Question of the day, drop your comments below. What do you think a Chuck Schumer stamp would taste like? Lox and cream cheese, day-old bagel. I just couldn't leave that to the side. Yeah. Cold matzo ball soup is what it would taste like. All right. Chuck Schumer said that the Trump administration is concealing facts about the appointment of Louis DeJoy as Postmaster General, and that's his top priority this week. Thank you, Chuck. One of the 4 people who was in the negotiations for your second stimulus check was Steve and Nancy and Mark, who says he doesn't want to resume negotiations now and to spend his time holding up pictures for photo ops about Louis DeJoy, the DeJoy scandal. As Americans still try to figure out what this scandal has to do with them, it certainly has to do a lot with Chuck Schumer. If you haven't seen, Chuck Schumer and the Democrats of the Senate literally are running commercials every 10 seconds. Literally every 10 seconds, saying, give us money so we can get reelected. And but now they're concerned their reelection votes may not get in the mail because of Louis DeJoy. It's ironic. They're chasing the guy, they're chasing the postman about their checks, about ensuring their employment to get their checks, but they're doing nothing about your checks. In fact, they don't want to meet. And, I could be even more cynical. Well, let me go there. I could even be more cynical. Nancy and Steve don't want to meet with, Nancy and Chuck don't want to meet with Steve and Mark until they come up with a better deal on the table. But in the same regards, they want to bring back members of Congress to talk about a postman. They want to bring back members of Congress to do with the Carolyn Maloney baloney bill that's all one page about the postman, but they can't do a one-page bill about your stimulus check. It looks so logical, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. So Chuck Schumer says that whatever DeJoy, who's 63 years old, said in a series of remarks in the last 24 hours, which I detailed on Mornings at LALATE, that he was going to not remove mailboxes anymore, that Schumer says that's not enough. There's going to be 2 hearings about DeJoy over the next 2 days, and that there's going to be a recall of the House of Representatives this Sunday to go back into session. So as viewers sit here and wonder what's going on and how would your check get approved and when would it get approved, what's the answer? I will literally tell you the different things that are on the table and you can make the decision. I'll try to help you make the decision, but I'll tell you what's going on. You have the HEALS Act, which is currently introduced to the Senate. It's a Republican bill. It has never been voted on. It has never been approved by the Senate. It has never been approved by the House. It has never been approved by anyone. It's not even approved by the president himself. You have the Democrats' HEROES Act, which was approved by the House of Representatives, is in the Senate, has never been voted upon in the Senate. You have the Kamala Harris bill, which I think should be like the patron saint of this channel, $2,000 checks every month for 6 months until the pandemic improves or until unemployment goes down. The bill that every single person on this channel wants. It's in the Senate. It's in the Senate. It has never been voted upon. It has never been approved. I don't know why, but that's the status of that. Then you have all these other bills. There's a Romney bill that's done with Marco Rubio that talks about doing things quicker and shorter. And then you have chatter. I've never seen a bunch of people who talk so much. I mean, they talk more than some YouTube channels. They talk so much between the Republicans and Democrats of things that they have not done, that they hope to do, that they think they should do, that they will do, and yet they don't put it in paper. So, bottom line is, when could we get something done? Are these executive orders really a likelihood? And what the hell is happening with that Federal Reserve? First of all, let me address that Federal Reserve thing. That was just like, if you didn't think the Mitch gossip today was enough, there's Federal Reserve gossip going on as well. Well, the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, had released his meanings of the minutes of the Federal Reserve today, minutes ago. He talked about lending and all that stuff, but he did not talk about stimulus. There were some people out there saying that the Federal Reserve is going to send out your stimulus checks. No. Why would they? If there's one person who's simply not using money, it's Jerome Powell, head of the Federal Reserve. I detailed that over 2 months ago. I said that the Federal Reserve has complete authority to send you a stimulus checks, could send you stimulus checks, confirms their authority to send you stimulus checks, and simply doesn't want to send the stimulus checks, even though it has the money allocated just for COVID-19 relief to send you stimulus checks. So for someone to wake up on a Monday and start to tell people, oh, you're going to get stimulus checks from the Federal Reserve, just, that's like thinking that Phaedra Parks is going to return to Atlanta Housewives next season. Who told you that? Okay, maybe I did. But it's just not happening. It's just not happening. Now, the issue about all this other stuff, like an executive order from the president next week, I would expect that at the convention or around the time of the convention or these 2 conventions this week that we hear some policy about economic relief. We've heard no policy about economic relief. Amid one convention and a looming second convention, we've heard literally nothing about stimulus. So I don't think this will float much longer. I mean, just who are you going to vote for president if they don't even want to give you a stimulus check? Finally, the contention of Tim Kaine that we're not going to see anything until conventions are over. I mean, he's just, he's just a kid that's not even at the party talking about what's going on in the VIP lounge. It's just, goodness. So as we sit here today, great news about the check being approved. Confusing news of whether the check will somehow it be extracted by the jaws of life from a bloated HEALS Act and a bloated HEROES Act and become a standalone bill, which apparently Mark Meadows and Nancy Pelosi support, but haven't yet done it. And when would they do it? How fast could they do it? They could literally do it today. It could go to a vote for the Senate, if when they're in session, which could be this weekend, one day, House the next day, President signs the third day. It could be done that quickly, which would mean you get checks in September. At this point, it doesn't seem that you can get a check in August because we're running so late on time, but you would get the check. Now, if they don't do that, how late are we facing another problem? I'll address that coming up this evening on Evenings LALATE. Go to the front of this channel and hit the subscribe and alert button. I am literally updating things by the minute, where there's a number of states that are paid FPUC now, or new guidance about hazard pay, which is shocking, and Uber Lyft minutes ago, or the check, or the confusion about things like there's a Republican skinny bill and it doesn't pay you a check. No, simply untrue. I am here to be sort of your clearinghouse of information. Go to the front of the channel, hit that subscribe and alert button. We're about to reach 200,000 subscribers today, if not tomorrow. Thank you for the incredible ride. No one in the history of YouTube has ever reached 200,000 subscribers in 111 days, which if you don't count, if you do Larry Kudlow math, that's less than 4 months. Started on April 25th. As always, stay informed, stay motivated, stay inspired, and stay LA for more.